Yes, I will. Thank you very much. Let's deal with this.
We want to come and do another short video showing you all exactly what I displayed to my class, the Punnett Square. Before I get into that, it needs to be first understood that the oldest individual to ever be found on the face of the earth was a woman given the name of Lucy, who was African. She was found in South Africa. This literally ended all arguments that anyone on the face of the earth did not come from African people.
You must understand that I'm a baby in wisdom, but I'm not a fool. And he's saying here today that the Caucasian is in fact the oldest group on the planet. I beg to differ. Look, one of the most famous anthropologists is Professor Leakey. And when Professor Leakey went in search of the origin of human beings and human species, he didn't stop very long in Europe. He went to Africa. And the oldest bones and the oldest human beings to this day that you call Zinjanthropus, using the Latin meaning Zin and Xanthropus, meaning a black man, that oldest man, they say, is millions of years old. You went back and found one even older than that. You called her Lucy, a black woman.
Go ahead.
And every sensible historian, anthropologist today agrees that the black man is the father of human beings. Even your geneticist, Mr. Mendel.
Go ahead.
You have Mendel's law.
Go ahead.
Mendel says that light eyes are recessive. Light skin is recessive. You can take the recessive, the dark skin is dominant, the dark eyes are dominant. You can take the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive.
That means that African people are the father and the mother of the entire universe. Now, the Punnett Square. This is what a Punnett Square is. This is what we use in science to display genes and genotype. This right here is 5 groups of people, the 5 groups of people of color. You have the black, who is the African, the brown, who is considered the Middle Eastern, the red, who is considered the Native American or the Latin. You have the yellow, who's considered the Asian, and the white, who's considered the European, just to keep it simple. Now, these 2 big X's display the African, because we are genetically dominant. Anyone that doesn't understand that black people are genetically dominant is a person that has first been miseducated on themselves. We've been taught to think that we're inferior, but the science behind it is all black people are genetically dominant. Now, those 2 small X's are white people, recessive. White people are a recessive gene. That means that when they have children with a black man or a black woman, all of the children will have the recessive allele masked by the dominant allele. So when you...
This is Mendel's law. And so all of your scientists have proved that you can't look. Black is not even a color.
That's right. Teach.
Black is the mother and father of all colors.
Teach.
That's why the scripture says, in the beginning was blackness. And if you want a baby, even if the woman is a white woman, the baby has to come out of the triple darkness of her womb. And this is the origin of all life. Within the black, you have the whole color spectrum. But in white, you can, 2 white people laying down together, they can only produce white. But 2 black people in darkest Africa can lay down together and produce albino with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's right. Teach, Muhammad.
This happens all the time. And so we need to really get these facts correct today and understand that as gray as your hair is, you are listening to your father today.
Teach, Muhammad.
This is daddy talking.
Teach.
Look at Thandi Newton from Norbit. She has a British father and a Nigerian mother, but she still displays blackness because blackness is dominant. When you look at Barack Obama, who has a Kenyan father and a white mother, he will still be black because black is the masker of his white. It's literally dominant. The same thing goes for Tiger Woods. So literally, anytime a black has a child with the brown, the child is now black. Black has a child with the red, the child is black. Yellow, white, the exact same thing. This is where racism comes in.
Of our traits from our parents, then the question is, why don't we look exactly like them? Like sometimes you have one parent has blue eyes and one parent has green eyes, and then the child has blue eyes. So what's the deal with that? The answer is dominance. Now, when we think of the idea of dominance, if we think of that word, we usually talk about like dominating in a sport event. Dominance has to do with strength. So humans have 23 chromosome pairs. And I'm going to draw these pairs on the board as these awesome little ovally friends. Now we also learned that on these pairs of chromosomes that we have a gene, and lots of genes actually, several genes, almost 1,000 per pair. And these genes appear as bands. So there's actually 2 slots in each spot for a gene, because those 23 chromosome pairs, those chromosomes are the same. So like we have 2 pieces of information about hair color, like say brown and blonde hair. And we have 2 pieces of information about freckles, like whether or not you have them, yes or no. And each of these, one of those chromosomes came from mom, one came from dad, also chromosome for heart function. So we get 1 piece of our genetic information from one parent, 1 piece of our genetic information from the other parent, and these are inherited on the chromosomes in the genes. So new word today, allele. Allele is a different form of a gene. So remember, the gene is the slot of information across the chromosome pair. And in the case of eye color, we have a couple of different colors that we can have. We're going to look at one gene that's called the brown-blue eye color gene. If you have 2 browns, you obviously have brown eyes. If you have 2 blue alleles on this gene, then you obviously have blue eyes. That makes sense. The question that pondered scientists for ages was what happens when you have 1 of each, which I should have drawn one of those blue and I totally didn't, and I'm sorry. So if we have 1 of each, then what is the deal? This comes down to 2 more words for the day. Dominant alleles and recessive alleles. So right now we're going to talk about what these are. It'll make a lot more sense when we get to examples. Dominant alleles are stronger alleles. They're stronger traits, and they always show if they're present. If you have 1 or 2, they're going to show up. We represent them with capital letters like capital T or capital H or capital A. But keep in mind, you don't have like necessarily H's on your DNA. It's that sequence of nucleotides. Recessive alleles are weaker. They only show if both are present. And they are represented with lowercase letters. For example, lowercase t, lowercase h, and lowercase a. So the interaction of these 2 types of traits are going to determine what kind of trait that you have.
So, when Dylann Roof says, you're raping our women, what does he mean by that? He means that anytime a white woman has a child with a black man, those children are not white anymore, because in order to clarify as white, you have to be 100% white. Well, to the people that are already the minority, it is extremely important to hold on to the genetics that they already have, because their genetics are already recessive. So, think about prison. Why are so many black men are in prison? Because if you're in prison, what are you not doing? You are not having children. Why does it seem so many black American men are turning homosexual? So many black women are lesbians. Because if you are lesbian homosexual, you are not what? You are not procreating your race. The basis of racism is white people understanding that if we do not kill black people at all times, that they will eventually kill us. So when you look at black men being pulled over by oftentimes European police officers, shot and killed for no reason, is because they subconsciously understand that if I do not kill him, that he's going to kill my children with his genetics. Racism is not simply somebody hating you because, you know, you got this fly car, or because they don't want to see you do well. White people do not want to go extinct. So in order for them not to go to extinct, they created a system called racism, white supremacy, in order to kill black people. Black people because we show the strongest genetic variability. So when you go to Africa, you're going to see a lot of different diseases that target black people, because we have got to diminish your numbers if we have a chance of living and surviving. This is the reality of racism. So we've been taught to hate our skin, we've been taught to hate our lips, we've been taught to hate our wide noses, we've been taught to hate everything about blackness, because really we're dominantly strong. Think about Venus and Serena Williams dominating in tennis. Think about Tiger Woods dominating in golf. Think about all of the amazing, basketball players that have played in the NBA, amazing NFL players. The majority of those individuals, if not always, are people of African descent, are black people. That's not coincidental, because we are genetically strong. We are genetically stronger than any individual on the entire face of the earth, and the European knows that. So if he wants to live for the next 200 years and have blue-eyed, blonde-haired children, then that means unfortunately he has to kill us. Understand, overstand, wake up, love being black. Bye.